In a dramatic turn of events, Canada is considering canceling its $13 billion F-35 fighter jet deal with the United States, marking what experts call a watershed moment in Canadian-American relations. Prime Minister Mark Carney stated on March 12 that Canada needs to understand that it cannot trust the United States on everything, suggesting a potential review of the F-35 project. This statement signals a significant shift in the traditionally strong military partnership between the nations. The tension has been building for 2 years, driven by the Trump administration's aggressive trade policies. The United States has imposed tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, and agricultural products, creating a serious diplomatic rift between the countries. Defense Minister Blair confirmed during a March 14 press conference that Canada must re-evaluate the F-35 purchase agreement and is exploring European alternatives to the American stealth fighter jet. The potential cancellation reflects concerns about Canada's military dependence on a single supplier. Sources within Ottawa suggest European aircraft manufacturers are being approached for discussions. This move could represent the largest shift in Canadian defense procurement strategy since World War II. Trade experts point to escalating pressure from Washington, including threats to existing agreements if Canada doesn't modify trade quotas. These actions have created what one senior Canadian official called an atmosphere of uncertainty and diminished trust. The automotive and steel sectors have been hit hard by U.S. tariffs, while disputes over dairy products have strained the relationship. These pressures have pushed Ottawa toward considering what was previously unthinkable, looking beyond the United States for military hardware needs. Industry analysts suggest this could have far-reaching implications for North American defense integration and signal a broader realignment of Canadian military procurement strategy toward European partners. In a significant shift in defense strategy, Canadian Defense Minister Blair suggests a potential pivot towards European military hardware, marking a departure from U.S.-centric defense partnerships. This comes as Prime Minister Mark Carney's administration reassesses Canada's $13 billion F-35 fighter jet deal amid tensions with its southern neighbor. The consideration of European alternatives, particularly the Eurofighter Typhoon and French Rafale, signals a broader recalibration of Canada's strategic relationships. European manufacturers are actively promoting their aircraft as viable alternatives. The Eurofighter consortium emphasizes their aircraft's versatility and lower maintenance costs, while Dassault Aviation highlights the Rafale's adaptability to Canadian conditions. The decision presents challenges due to Canada's geographic proximity to the United States and existing dependencies in logistics and maintenance. The F-35 program offers integration benefits with major allies, including the UK, Italy, Australia, Norway, and Denmark. The reassessment reflects deeper tensions in U.S.-Canadian relations, particularly regarding trade tariffs and diplomatic friction. Prime Minister Carney has supported diversifying Canada's military procurement sources. Canadian officials emphasize maintaining sovereignty in defense decisions, stating that while the U.S. remains their largest trading partner, they won't automatically accept policies based on logistics alone. This stance receives support from both political figures and public opinion. The debate extends beyond military considerations into questions of national autonomy and strategic partnerships. With European manufacturers promising tailored solutions, Ottawa must choose between maintaining traditional U.S. procurement patterns or embracing a more diversified approach. This situation reflects a growing trend among Western nations to reassess their defense relationships. The outcome of Canada's fighter jet decision could influence future defense procurement strategies among U.S. allies and partners. In a dramatic shift that could reshape North American defense relations, Canada is considering abandoning its $13 billion F-35 fighter jet deal with the United States, marking a potential turning point in Canadian military procurement strategy. The planned acquisition of 88 F-35 aircraft, scheduled for delivery starting in 2026, is now uncertain as tensions escalate between Ottawa and Washington. This diplomatic strain stems from recent U.S. trade policies, particularly tariffs targeting Canada's dairy and steel industries. Defense Secretary Blair stated on March 15, "How we are treated by our trade and defense partners affects major tenders. We may need to consider a Plan B." Canada's foreign minister echoed this, suggesting alternatives if U.S. tariff pressures continue. European alternatives include the Eurofighter Typhoon, jointly produced by the UK, Germany, Italy, and Spain, France's Rafale, and Sweden's Gripen. While these aircraft lack the F-35's stealth capabilities, factors like cost-effectiveness could influence the decision. Pentagon sources expressed concern that a Canadian withdrawal would seriously impact bilateral relations. One senior official stated, "Canada is a close ally and F-35 program partner. We hope they won't back down from such a significant commitment." The potential shift towards European suppliers represents more than just a procurement decision. It signals Canada's possible strategic realignment in response to U.S. trade pressures. Ottawa's media has begun speculating about saying goodbye to the F-35, though no official cancellation exists. The timeline for replacing Canada's aging CF-18 fleet, set for the early 2030s, could face delays if technical evaluations must restart with new contractors. This development reveals growing tensions in North American defense cooperation, and could mark a significant shift in Canadian military procurement strategy. In a dramatic shift, Canada is contemplating abandoning its F-35 fighter jet program with the United States, potentially pivoting toward European alternatives. This $13 billion move signals a broader strategic realignment between these historically close allies. Prime Minister Mark Carney and Defense Minister Bill Blair have been sending mixed signals about Canada's intentions, while European aerospace manufacturers position themselves as alternatives. French Rafale fighters, Eurofighter Typhoons, and Swedish Gripen jets are being considered instead of the F-35. Canada's dependence on the United States has become increasingly problematic, explains Dr. Robert MacDonald, a defense policy expert at the University of Toronto. The current administration's trade policies have forced Ottawa to reconsider its partnerships. The potential cancellation represents a broader shift in Canada's international alignment. Plans are developing for trade agreements with the European Union, defense cooperation with the UK, and joint arms projects with France and Germany. Public sentiment in Canada supports this pivot, with polls showing strong backing for diversifying away from U.S. dependency. The American response has been swift, with warnings of severe consequences for bilateral relations if Canada proceeds. These decisions will damage our relationship, and Canada will pay a heavy price, stated a U.S. State Department official on March 16, 2025. However, Canadian officials seem undeterred, suggesting that the time has come for Canada to chart its own course. The situation remains fluid, with diplomatic channels working to manage the tension. Whether Ottawa will follow through with the cancellation remains uncertain, but the consideration marks a significant shift in Canada's strategic thinking. As global powers watch closely, the next few weeks could determine whether decades of U.S.-Canadian defense cooperation will give way to a new European partnership, altering North America's security landscape. Breaking news: Canada's critical F-35 decision looms. Major diplomatic shift ahead. Ottawa is set to make a watershed decision within the next 2 months regarding the $13 billion F-35 fighter jet program. This decision has become a defining moment in Canadian-American relations. Prime Minister Mark Carney's government faces two choices: maintain the F-35 deal and smooth relations with Washington, or cancel the agreement and potentially face economic consequences through increased U.S. tariffs. The situation has evolved beyond military procurement, encompassing trade relationships and territorial sovereignty, highlighting the complexity of Canadian-American diplomatic ties. Defense Minister Bill Blair's comments about European alternatives have raised concerns in Washington. Industry experts suggest that while European options might not match the F-35's stealth capabilities, they could offer other advantages. The timing is significant given the broader international context. This scenario shows how military procurement decisions intersect with larger geopolitical dynamics. Some analysts suggest this could be a negotiating strategy by Ottawa, while others see it as a pivot point in Canadian defense policy. A potential cancellation could trigger economic responses, affecting dairy trade and lumber exports. This crisis shows how modern international relations intertwine defense, trade, and diplomatic considerations. Whether this ends in a split from the F-35 program or a negotiated settlement, Canadian-American relations are entering uncharted territory. The next few weeks could reshape North American defense cooperation for decades. Stay tuned for continuous updates on this evolving situation. Your thoughts could help shape the conversation about Canada's future defense strategy. Will Canada withdraw from the F-35 program and turn to European alternatives, or is this part of a diplomatic strategy? The answer may come sooner than we expect.